Hi everybody, Jonathan Reeves here with another Twinmotion video, and I really hope you enjoyed my new features of Twinmotion 22 if you haven't seen that already. Now today we're going to look at one of these features in more detail, and it's one that I'm really excited about as an architect for producing beautiful plans, sections, rendered elevations and so on. So I really hope you enjoy the video. Let's get going. Now, I've discovered an amazing new feature in Twinmotion 2022 that I want to talk about specifically in this video today. And it's the ability to generate plans, elevations and sections beautifully rendered and using the new path tracing item as well. So you can see I'm just in the example demonstration file at the moment, and this is a good one because everybody can practice. So if you're not sure where this is, just go down to the burger menu, go to demo scenes and bring up the Lakehouse Retreat Demo file. So this is what we're going to use as our example. Now just before we get started, obviously I'm in perspective mode at the moment, and I want to show you one other quick new feature that I really love as well, and this is the ability to just click a keyboard shortcut F12 and minimize your palettes. Okay, so what this allows you to do is minimize your palettes, but most importantly we can actually keep working in this view. Now previously this wasn't possible in the presenter view. While you're in presenter view you could only actually view the file, but now I can actually manipulate it. I can do all things like change the lighting and so on as well, and also there's some nice options down here where I can actually jump straight into my presentation if I want to, but all I do is click escape and those palettes pop out. So it's a very nice new feature for actually kind of maximizing your screen space when you're doing a bit of kind of final navigation in your project. So you know what I mean by this. If you're kind of in the model and you just want to kind of move some stuff around, here we go, just sort of move this around, let's just move that, move this item, do some rotating and so on. So yeah, really great. It just maximizes your screen, particularly on smaller screen areas. Okay, so let's jump into the actual new feature I wanted to talk about today, and this is where we can make fantastic views like these isometric or axonometric type views in a range of different models. You can see I've got a few different views set up here already. Now these are just rendering using the path tracing, okay, and I've actually re-rendered these at a really high quality resolution already. So we'll review these at the end of the session. What I'm keen to do is show you how to achieve these results relatively quickly. You can see here's a nice little rendered elevation, got a site plan. What's really cool is you can actually render a site plan with the roof or without the roof. So here it is without the roof on, here it is with the roof on as well, and here is a section through the model, looking really good with the background in. If you do want to, you can also render these sort of lovely top-down plan views now. And so the quality of these you'll see on the final presentation will be absolutely amazing. Just remember at the moment I'm just in the path tracing, so it's sort of, you know, not even halfway finished. So let's go to front view. You can do elevations as well, and you can do little like sort of isolated exploded views as well. So let's kind of jump into this. Let me show you how this was achieved. Okay, so the very first thing you're going to want to do to generate a view is just go up to your eye icon, go down to the views icon or F1, click here, and here you can see all the different views. Now you will have to bear in mind this will only work effectively with path tracing. So let's click that view on and we'll go to the top view here. Now at the moment you'll notice that I can actually see the floor plan, and I'll show you how I've achieved that in a second. But all we need to do to see a nice quality rendering is click the path tracer, and then it will actually render with the true sort of rendering quality of the lighting and the shadows and things like reflections as well. Now when I'm working, I quite like to work in sort of low quality mode just because of the speed, and you'll see that it works quite quickly, and that gives me a decent enough quality preview that I can kind of rely on to do my actual work. So if I would like to kind of capture this image, which looks pretty nice, all I need to do of course is go to the create image icon and scroll down, and let's just rename this. Right click, rename, let's just call this new plan. Okay, so there's our first view. Now one thing that I would normally recommend is you duplicate views, but I have noticed that if you duplicate views, for some reason that technique doesn't work. Okay, so let's not do that. So don't do that, just delete that other view. If you would like to change the view, all you need to do is basically click onto the last view you were on, Okay, so now let's render a roof plan. Let's zoom out a bit and go more for a site plan type view. And all I'm going to do is click back onto my eye icon and I'm going to go to clipping. Now this allows me to modify the clipping height. You can see that very easily I can just drag this clipping plane up or down. Okay, so you've got to kind of find out where the land is, and you can type numbers in here. So if I just type in, see what happens if we type in 0. It's a bit fiddly, so just type in 0 there. You can see I'm actually kind of almost below the ground. So I need to stop coming up to a certain height. Let's go -5. There we go. And if I go down about -3, probably we're going to cut through into the building, exactly that. So just make sure that you understand how the clipping plane works, and this allows you to render both roof plans. Let's go up a bit higher, let's go -10, and you can see now I'm actually above the trees. Okay, in fact I'm not quite above the tree, I'm halfway through it. Previously I was below the tree. So this is very nice in terms of rendering our site plan here. Let's just sort of frame that view up a bit more. Perhaps I want to get a slightly bit of different context in there. And all I do is clearly create image. Okay, and then just pop down and we can rename that one. Let's just call that site plan. Okay, good. Okay, so let's render some elevations now. Okay, so what we're going to do now is just click back onto the eye, go to our views, and we're going to go to the front view. So here we can see the front view of the drawing, and because we're quite far in front, you're not quite seeing the lake and so on, but you are seeing things like the boat. So there's a couple of options really. You could obviously click on the object itself, open up the navigator, and you could just hide that particular object for this particular view. And what I would recommend is you can work in this mode without the ray tracing on, click create image, okay, and then you turn the path tracing on afterwards. Okay, so that's actually a really, really good little tip in terms of working. So, okay, I could Photoshop some sort of lake in here afterwards. In fact, you're seeing through the water as such. That is actually a really nice little view. Let's have a quick look at changing the lighting. Of course, I can't change the lighting here because I'm in the image. So let's just go back to the actual image itself, and I'm going to click refresh. Okay, so that's now updated without the boat there. Let's just rename it, and let's just call this site elevation. And then what I'm going to do is go into my lighting. So click more, of course, because I'm actually in the image now. And the easiest way I find, just go to location and just start to change that sort of daylighting coming down through the model. Okay, so one extra little tip I would recommend is if you're going to try to adjust the shadows, what you really want to do is go into lighting itself and make sure the sky dome is possibly off so that you can actually then tweak things like the ambient lighting a bit more readily and also adjust that time of day. Okay, so let's go back to our image, let's go down to our more, let's go to lighting, and you can see it does respond now to those various times of day. There's quite a sort of dark night shot if you like. Let's kind of get that light up. You can't really tell, of course, until you let it go and let it render for a second, and then you get those wonderful shadows coming in and things like the reflections of the environment. You can also spin the north offset as well. So if you want to kind of get some nice sort of shadows from perhaps that tree, there we go. I think that kind of angle there looks pretty good. Yeah, here we go. You can sort of see the shadows of the tree kind of coming in nicely now. So when you're happy, all you need to do again, once again, go down to the image that you just saved and perhaps click update to refresh it. Okay, fantastic. So we've done a site plan, we've basically done some elevations. Let's look at how we create some nice floor plans and some sections now. Well, I hope you're enjoying the new features so far. I just wanted to take a moment to introduce you to my new book, Revolutionise Your Rendering with Twinmotion. Here you can see the contents. It's a really big book, 322 pages of learning, beautifully illustrated and really lovely presentation. There's some amazing case studies by wonderful featured firms and wonderful featured artists from all over the world, and I really hope you enjoy learning from this book as much as I did contributing to writing it. A big thanks to Epic Games for sponsoring and helping out with the book. But basically, please have a look and watch my video on this if you're not sure. But otherwise, just hop onto the store and snap it up. It's only £35 and it's an absolute bargain, and you'll really enjoy learning Twinmotion from this book. Okay, so we've got our elevation here. I would like to turn this into a section. So once again, I'm just going to hide the side palette for a moment. Don't need that just for now. I'm going to drop down to my clipping. And this is where we just need to, again, adjust the clipping plane. You can see as we slide down, it's quite sensitive. You will basically get to a point where you can go to just the background, for example. Now, what I normally find is I start with 0. Okay, and luckily, because the model was actually generated at pretty much 0, then that means that it will cut through the model. But that may not be the case, so just be aware of that. So if I do want to, I can actually just adjust my clipping plane a bit more. Let's come 1 meter. Okay, so you can see now I'm a bit further back. So if we go -1 meter, you see a tiny bit of the roof coming in as well. Okay, so that's how you generate these sections. That's actually a really nice little view there. So now I just want to go and create an image. Let's rename it. You can see I've got quite a few images piling up here, which is good fun. Let's go and rename this section AA. Okay, and let's basically adjust the lighting. So definitely want to go in and get the lighting a bit brighter, the ambient lighting, just so you've got more light bouncing around in those darker areas inside the model. And I think probably the other thing that I might want to do is just adjust the lighting, or should we say the time of day, and see if we can get that sun sort of penetrating into the design a bit more. Let's just let that run. You can't quite tell until you actually render it. So it can be a little bit fiddly just to get the lighting right. Let's kind of have a look at just boosting up the overall brightness, and one of course quick way to do that is just go to the exposure level. But that does brighten the entire image. Okay, so you've got to be prepared for that. So that looks pretty good. Again, I can easily sort of Photoshop out this landscape, put a ground plane in. So I'm pretty happy with that image for now. So let's just pop back. Okay, let's just do a quick update on everything there, refresh just in case. Let's create one more image here. So create image. And this time I'm going to just turn off the background. So all I need to do for this is go down to my site, and in the organisation of the project, I should be able to just identify all of the vegetation and things like the terrain. There we go, that looks really great. So basically it's so well organised, this model. If you haven't seen my other videos, just check these out, because this will show you how to actually kind of organise your model really nicely. Okay, and now I can just click and drag with the middle button of the mouse. Look at that, absolutely lovely, lovely section. Of course I could put people in and all sorts of stuff as well. But now I just click create image as well. So let's just review. We've got the section there. We've got that section there blown up. And we've also got the site section. So let's just rename these. I'm a big fan of just renaming things as we go. And let's just kind of have a look at these rendered out at full size. So we can do that section AA. Let's call this section BB actually. BB. Okay, fantastic. Good. So really, really happy with the quality of the renderings now. I'm going to do one more view, which is going to be a plan. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my views, go to my site plan here. And what I need to do here is basically turn off this dock. Okay, let's zoom into the building a bit more and just pan it across. And you can see kind of got a rendered roof plan at the moment, which doesn't look too fantastic because there's no shadows or anything. What I really need to do again is just adjust my clipping plane, and I think from memory it was -3 meters. Just takes me into the floor plan. Lovely, looks really good, bit bright. So let's create image and just quickly adjust things like the exposure level. Let's get that down a bit. So depending on the mood of the image, you know, you can play around with the exposure. And of course the ambient lighting is just going to bring up the brightness of the sort of darker areas in there as well. Don't forget you can do things like the white balance as well, which is really beautiful in Twinmotion. Tend to keep that about 700-600, something like that, for fairly neutral. We can also adjust that sort of sun intensity from pretty much nothing, you can see, right up to super bright as well. I tend to find something about 20, 25 works really well. So yeah, all looking good. And finally, I might just want to adjust those shadows, those shadow angles. Okay, so could have the light coming in the back of the house if I wanted. Yep, that looks really, really nice. Or, if I prefer, just want to show that sun coming in the front of the model at whatever time of day. And you know, these are, if this is sort of true north, this will be a realistic sort of shadow angle. So that looks absolutely fantastic. I'm really, really pleased with that particular view. So back to my media mode and create image. So really, really fantastic. We've got ourselves a lovely floor plan now. Let's rename that floor plan. Okay, so there's one more type of image I just want to create for this project here, and it's essentially just an isometric custom view. And that's all we need to do then. We click into custom view. We can now kind of spin our project around to whatever view we want. And they look great, these. They're, you know, they're not perspective images. So truly architects love to present isometrics and axonometric views. And depending on the structure of your model, you know, you might be able to turn the roof off. I don't think I can with this because it's not structured in that particular way. That can work quite well for you. So what we'll do, we'll also just put back on the vegetation and landscape, put the path tracing back on, and let's set up a really nice sort of isometric type site view, just of the building in its context. So, you know, I do love perspectives, of course, everybody does, but these kind of views are much more what I call architectural in their nature. And bearing in mind this is a completely raw render, it looks really, really good. Now, one little tip I will also give you, I did notice that the water shader didn't work in this particular style of mode with the isometrics. So I just basically replaced that with a shiny glass, and that worked really, really well. Now, one extra little tip here is I've noticed that there's nothing to stop you. Let's create one final image here. Going into the settings for the image, and you can play around with things like the visual effects. So as well as the vignetting, okay, so on these kind of images, sometimes you want the vignetting on or maybe off. You can also go to visual effects. So under visual effects, don't forget that you can actually play around with the filters. Okay, and some of these are quite nice actually. So we can kind of render out, I quite like this one, the hidden line one. That looks really, really cool. And I also like this one with a little bit of rendering on the lines. The heavy ones are a bit heavy for my feel, but I quite like this one, just giving a slight more defined look. So if you would like to render those out, that's all you need to do, just go and change those. And I'll show you some examples of those in a minute. So let's rename this one. So let's call this ISO drawing. And I think my final one there, that was just also a normal ISO render. Okay, so all we're going to do then to render these out is click to export. So then we move on quickly to multi-image, and it's really just a case of let's just work backwards from all these new images that I've just created. And what we'll do is we'll review all of these at the end. In this little tutorial, this is where I started. So we'll click Start Export, and let's just make a new little folder for these. Okay, let's just call these New Renders. And off we go. So you'll see that they actually render out pretty well. My default rendering style would be, size would be 4K. Okay, so I would definitely recommend you go render at 4K, and you'll see that they're almost done. Okay, so that's a really, really nice thing that we can do, and what we'll do is we'll view all of these at the end of the video and see what you think. So thanks for watching everybody, I really hope you've enjoyed this other tutorial. Make sure you check out the other videos on my channel, and if you're new around here, please drop a subscribe and like, it means a lot. I'm really doing well with the channel so far. We hit 10,000 this year, and we're firing away on all cylinders. I've got loads more videos planned. So I look forward to seeing you soon in the next video. Thanks for watching everybody. Bye bye.